Dan, I can't imagine there being a better place to be this week than in Wisconsin, USA.
It's always a great place to be. That
Is
is
it?
what Wisconsin is known for. A great place to be when you can eat your cheese and drink your beer.
Yeah, while standing in snow in April.
Potentially, yes. Always
Uh,
the chance of snow.
yeah, so Dan, there's something big going on in Wisconsin this weekend. Would you mind sharing it with us?
This coming weekend on April 18th, there will be the Midwest Firewood Frenzy, also known as Wolf Ridge Demo Days.
Yeah.
All day long from 8 to 5 at Wolf Ridge Manufacturing.
Wow. Are you going to be there?
I will be there along with a few other people from around the YouTube world.
Yeah. All right. So will there be professional firewooders there?
There will be. And there will be a few hobbyists as well.
All right. So it's open for everyone. If they're letting the hobbyists in, anyone's welcome. Is that right?
Everyone can attend. They'll have all of their machines on display and chances to like run them and demonstrations on running them. There'll even be 2 factory tours that Chris does. He gives everyone a tour of the factory. And you can also stop by and talk to the Bob Nelson.
Yeah, Bob Nelson. I just spoke with Bob Nelson yesterday, and he said that there will be porta potties there, Dan.
There will be, yes. And
yeah.
food trucks and a food truck.
Bob was commenting about just how expensive those porta potties were. I was like, yeah, I experienced that firsthand.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into putting these shows on. And even if it's just something simple like, just Wolf Ridge, just all of their equipment, getting everything set up, getting all the, vendors like porta potties, the food truck, the tents. I mean,
yeah,
it's more than people realize, which I'm sure you have even more firsthand knowledge of because with the expo, it's a lot to it.
Yeah. I can.
Yeah. Well, for you, you just have everyone else do the work for you, so you don't.
I am the director of pointing.
The director, yes.
I wear a white hat and I point. I'd learned at any construction site, the guy wearing the white helmet is the most intelligent one there.
He knows what's going on, and he knows who to tell to do what they need to have done.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like an exciting thing. Maybe you can give us a recap of it next week.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, the weather. So they used to always have this in June. And for the last how many years, it was either really hot or raining or really hot and raining.
Yeah.
So they moved it to April. And the forecast right now for Saturday is 42 degrees with a chance of snow.
Oh, gosh.
So hopefully it just is it doesn't snow, and hopefully it's, just a cooler, nice mid-April afternoon.
Yeah. Well, we had our first couple hot days down here, and it doesn't take long for me to start complaining about the heat and wishing for cold weather. And it was just a few days ago, I was complaining about the cold weather and was just wishing it would warm up.
And it warmed up quick. We were up in the 80s.
Yeah, we were too.
Jeez.
I'm not built for 80-degree weather.
No, not in April.
At all. It doesn't seem like we have anything other than just cold or hot. There's like no spring and fall anymore. It just goes from summer to winter and then from winter to summer.
Yeah, it switches back and forth every other week.
Yeah, they ought to pass a law that can't happen anymore.
That would be nice. They could just end it, like daylight savings.
Yeah.
Just end it. Don't do it anymore. Carry on with back to the traditional 4 seasons a year. Make sure they're all represented in, equally.
Yeah.
And with the Midwest Firewood Frenzy coming up this weekend, Joe, last weekend you were at a little event out on the East Coast.
Yeah. I drove to Vernon, Connecticut, which is a suburb of Hartford, and I attended the Logrite open house, and I had a blast. That was really fun.
Wow. How long of a drive was that?
It was long with a capital L. It was it was probably, if I had have gone straight there, it'd have been like 9 hours.
Whew.
But I did a lot of diversions on the way there. I saw some opportunity to go visit some historical locations. So I went and visited, I stopped and visited the gravesite of Babe Ruth, one of the most famous American athletes of all time, the greatest baseball player. He's buried just outside of New York City, right off of Interstate 84. And then I went and visited the grave of Moses Cleveland, the founder of the city of Cleveland. And down the road, I visited the gravesite of Jonathan Trumbull, who was I think he is the original governor of Connecticut, but he is the person they named my county here in Ohio after, because this area was settled by people from Connecticut. All of our towns, if you look, share the same names of other towns out in Connecticut in and around Hartford.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, that's what Moses Cleveland was, an employee for the Connecticut Land Company, and he was the surveyor of all of this area in Northeast Ohio, which they referred to as the Western Reserve. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds
So I
like
just always wanted to go see them. There's a statue of Moses Cleveland in downtown Cleveland.
but Cleveland isn't on the way to Connecticut.
Yeah, it's the wrong way.
Yeah.
But Moses Cleveland was in Connecticut, so I guess it was
Ah,
on. Yeah, guess it was on the way. Yeah, that was nice. But this Logrite, that's everyone's favorite logging tools, with the picaroons, the hookaroons, the peavies. They make log arches. But then they make, like, I don't know, it's like table legs and stuff. Anything out of steel and aluminum, they can make it. It's a high tech factory. It is. It's for real, and they're worldwide. They sell them all over the world now.
their booth at Bunyan always impresses me with how many different, I guess not really attachment, but just like different tools they have.
Yeah, and they always sell out at every event they go to.
Yeah, and they like the one I'm always impressed with is the great big cant hook that's got like a 7 foot handle. It seems like it's just a
Uh
great
huh.
big cant hook, which
It's
means
a
you
can. It's a can hook.
yes you can hook.
Never
You
say can't.
you
Yeah.
can't hook.
Uh huh. Yeah. They were gracious hosts. They fed me. Uh, it was a nice time. The weather was ideal. That's such a big factor. And they had invited in some other people that are associated with their company. There was like this lady. She has like this traveling women's timber show. She was real interesting. The University of Connecticut there, the Yukon Timber Sports Club
Oh,
was there. Chainsaw carvers, other vendors, local saw shops, and then Wood Miser was there with I never seen a mill like that, where like the person sits in a seat and it goes with the saw. Looked like it was a lot of fun to ride, but it's a sawmill, Dan, a
wow.
sawmill.
And is this so? This do they have an open house every year, or is this like was there some? Because normally, like when you have an open house, it's like the first like year you're in business or something, right?
Uh-huh. Well, I guess it's an annual event. I don't know how long they've been doing it, but they it was nice. It would have been. I mean, I drove, I don't know, 9-ish hours, and it was nice to do that. I think that if you were in and around, a couple hours out. My friend Jason, who was at the International Firewood Expo, he's a couple hours away. He came out, and I got to hang out with him again, and it was just a nice time.
Well,
And it's
that's
just
good.
it's just the culture too of not just firewood, but like all the peripheral industries. Everyone in it is nice. It's just a nice group of people.
Well, that is good. I'm glad you had a nice time with all all the nice people. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's like I don't know. I always find it interesting when these places have they like go out to all the shows and you see them, but yet they have something like this. And I'm sure you probably saw something there, or like I just maybe just got a little bit more backstory into their company that maybe puts them on a different level when you look at them now.
Yeah, well, I learned that about Logrite. Logrite started in the garage.
Oh,
Um, yeah, they felt that they could improve, some of the tools. Instead of using wooden handles, they went to aluminum and found that it's lighter and easier to use and less vibration. I guess if you're swinging a pickaroon or a hookaroon, they're safer because they don't snap in half and send you flying.
yep.
They'll bend instead, so there's less risk of injury like that. And the way that they've grown, now they got robots in there, and yeah, it was really cool. I don't know, I just felt privileged to be there.
And you use what? Which of the Logrite tools do you most often use?
The one I use most is the hookaroon.
The hookaroon.
Yeah, it is awesome. It is just nice. It's I guess there's not much difference between a pickaroon and a hookaroon, other than the hookaroon has like this little hook that comes off the very tip of it. So when you can sink it into a round, and then it just picks up. It's not going to slide off, and then you just got to give it a little flip to get it to come out. But you learn right away that when you first started using it, you want to just swing that thing as hard as you can and sink it into that log as far as you can. And you don't need to do that. You just need to lightly get it into the wood, and that's all you need.
And then it hooks right in.
Yeah, it hookaroons right in.
Hookaroons right in.
Uh-huh.
And I think they make different length handles too, right? So like if you were
Yes.
running like a horizontal splitter, you could have one that would reach all the way across onto your log lift, and you could pull rounds
Yep.
in.
Well, or if you are vertically challenged, they have shorter ones. And then they got like super duper long ones. If like Shaquille O'Neal or someone was hanging out at your wood yard, you'd want to get them a longer hookaroon.
And you also use it to pull logs in from on the infeed of the Yappa. I've seen you do that.
Yeah, I do that. And I use the PV for that also. And yeah, these tools they exist for a reason. There was a need, and people, whenever what's that? Uh, Necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah.
There you go.
Uh huh. Yeah, but it was nice, and what really made it nice? I had rented a car, and I know it was a long distance. I was wanting something fuel efficient, and but I also didn't want to be all like uncomfortable for 1,000 miles. So we have a Malibu, and I think it's a very comfortable car. So I rented a Malibu. So I get there in the morning to pick up my Malibu, and they don't have one.
Uh-oh.
And she goes, but we got this Camry over here. And I was like, oh, I've sat in one before, and it's not comfortable for me. It sits too high up in the air. She goes, well, the only other car I could move you to is an Audi.
Ooh.
I said, a
Yeah.
whaty? Yeah. And she says, an Audi A5. And I was like, I've seen them. I know what they are, but I've just never thunk of ever being in one. And so I took that one instead. It wasn't as good as fuel mileage, but Oh my gosh, Dan, I have found the most awesome car in the world. It
Wow.
is just, I seriously, I can't get it off of my mind. I've just I would just call my wife up at random and I would just say, "I love this car." Gosh, it gosh, what a car. It reminded me of when my dad was still around. We went up to this casino up in Pennsylvania, and we went up there and we had the buffet, and I was eating that brisket, and I was like, "Gosh, this brisket is awesome." And so we went home. It was like the next day. I woke up. I couldn't get this brisket off my mind. So I called up my dad. I says, "Dad," I says, "I can't get this brisket off my mind." He says, "I feel the same way." So we went back the next day and we got another lunch of brisket. And I feel the same way about this Audi A5. Dan, what the heck? When I think of cars, I think of Fords and Chevys and Volkswagens and stuff. Audi's not on my radar screen. And here this car is out, and it's sharp too. I had thought everyone stares at you when you drive this thing. It looks like a supercar. It's like awesome. I just figured it was, they were like, "Oh, that's a good looking man," or, "Oh, that's Joe from Ohio Woodburner." But no, it's the car.
It was the car.
Uh huh. And it got over 30 miles a gallon. This car, unbelievably fast.
Oh,
Gosh, it just flew.
I've
Get
never
out of my
driven
way.
one, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, if you get a chance, do it. I would, and then I looked at the price. I like Googled it, I was like, I couldn't get this car off my mind. So I was searching to see how expensive it was. And I was like, well, I'll just stick to renting it on the weekend.
That made you forget about it.
Yeah. I'm serious. I stopped at a gas station in Matamoros, Pennsylvania. And this guy gets out of a truck and he goes, "Hey, bud, that's a sharp looking car you got there. And I says, "Yeah," I said, "it's a rental." I said, "I got a rusted out F-150 back in Ohio." And I was thinking, I have 3 F-150s. If I were to add them all up with full tanks of gas, all 3 of them together wouldn't equal a new set of rims on this car.
What about the
Yeah.
rest of the trip? How are your accommodations along the way?
Uh, so the hotel was very nice. The price was correct. It was reasonable. The place was clean. The people were friendly. But when I'm checking in, the lady said, she pulls out a sheet and she goes, "Here's the QR code for parking." And I said, "Do I have to put this on my dashboard or something?" And she says, "No, you scan it to pay your $6." I said, $6 to park, at a hotel that I'm renting a room in?
Yeah.
She goes, "Yeah, you have to pay to park here." And I am not normally a petty person. And I didn't engage in pettiness with her. I was polite. She's just a messenger. I bristled a little bit, but I begrudgingly paid it. But I committed that night that this place is going to earn that $6, and I just hammered them on my comments, for my reviews, for the Google reviews online. They sent me an email, "Hey, thanks for staying. Rate your view, or rate your stay."
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hammered them, called them lazy. I called them low down, because I was saying I'm a weary traveler and I am inside of my 24-hour reservation cancellation window. I can't cancel this. It showed up nowhere in any of their, anything, all of the reservations that I made, they never mentioned it. All of the emails that they sent me confirming and my confirmation number didn't mention anything about it until you show up, and then they hit you with this. And I just said, this is just a lazy way for an accountant to move a decimal point, and I felt sorry for
Yep.
the lady because the guy behind me was belligerent about it. I bristled, but I went along with it, figuring, $6. But I am making this place earn that $6. I'm telling everyone I know, don't stay at this place. And then the hotel right next door, was the place right next door was a Marriott, just a different brand of Marriott. They don't charge the park.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Charge to
Yeah,
park.
what the heck?
How else
This
would you get
hotel
there?
is
Yeah.
Yeah, this hotel is very nice. It was clean, modern. I liked it. I'd stay there all the time. It is around this area where it was like a bustling retail area, but then like the restaurants are kind of closed, the strip plaza there is empty. So it's not like, but then like down the road, you're back to like the mall and all the, the winged restaurants and stuff. So it's not like they're trying to keep poachers out of their parking lot. The parking lot wasn't full.
Hmm.
$6 to park in a parking lot.
I've never heard
God.
of that. Never
Yeah, it's
had that
it
with
just
the hotels.
rubbed me the wrong way.
I guess so.
Yeah. Gosh. This is where, we had talked about, we did that episode on fees
Yeah.
and, like you stick it to the consumer. Well, you know what? Go travel overnight somewhere and look how expensive it gets. Gas is high, car rentals are high, food, tolls, they're just milking you for everything. And then you pay for, an inflated price at a hotel, and then they stick you for another $6. They could have easily here's the deal. Okay. If you take a deep dive into accounting here, Dan, they could have easily just added $6 to every night stay and no one would have known the difference.
Right.
But they add it to parking. And I have a strong feeling it's because they're putting it into a different a pivot table, cost center, whatever they call that, when you're bringing income in, that doesn't go onto the room rental because they give a percentage of that, because this is owned by a private company. It's a franchise. So they give a percentage of that back to Hilton or Marriott
Oh, yeah.
in
Yep.
this case. So now they're putting that percentage of the sales increase into a different bucket that doesn't have to be, divided and given a percentage back to Marriott. That's
Yeah.
my suspicion. That's why they're
That you
doing
could
it.
be onto something there.
Yeah. So there's a guy in a suit sitting in a cubicle bragging about these decimal points on his spreadsheet. But what that spreadsheet doesn't show is that there is a bitter, mildly good looking guy with a fancy rental car telling the world, don't stay at your hotel because it's a joke. And he happens to have a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. But other than that, it was a nice trip.
You could
Uh,
you could maybe adopt this into your business model and charge a delivery fee, and then when you get there, say, "I need $6 to park in your driveway to deliver this firewood."
yeah, I need $6 to take the wood off of the truck now.
Yeah.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
What this place did to you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy behind me threw a fit. And he says, "I'm not paying it." And the woman said, "Okay." I swear to God. Yeah. And here I just, I was like, "Wow, that stinks." That's kind of lame, don't you think? And I was like, "Well, okay." And I paid it.
Yeah.
But I'm getting it back as we speak.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Uh-huh. Charging $6 to take the wood off of my truck. That's a good
Oh,
idea, Dan.
yeah. See.
Yeah, fees. It's the lazy man's or lazy woman's way to make a profit.
Yep.
It's you can't innovate, you can't drive change and improvement and improve your process. You have to add a fee because you're lazy. That's all. I remember it was when I stayed at that resort in West Virginia. They had all the fees they added to my stay like doubled the price of the room. And the one fee that they had on there was the other fee.
Yes.
They were too lazy to even name it.
Convenience fee, booking
Yeah.
fee, location fee, and other.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was other. That's what I'm going to name my fee in Firewood for unloading my truck. Is the other fee. Yeah.
Oh, they get you one way or the other.
Uh-huh. But I'm gonna tell you what though. Visiting the gravesite of Babe Ruth, that was special. There were the there was hundreds of trinkets and mementos and baseballs that people had put on his headstone. And I took a picture of this one. A little boy had wrote a note to Babe Ruth on it on this baseball. It was nice. There was like patches from local police departments, and um, I guess people make a yearly pilgrimage to the
Yeah.
Babe's headstone there. Yeah,
Wow.
and I had driven there in traffic, and I had to I had to go to the bathroom. When you're in the middle of a cemetery, there's nowhere to go, man. You know, there's no porta potties over here and stuff. So I was trying to pay my respects to the Babe, and then worry about where am I gonna find the next rest area. Oh, the troubles of advanced age, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Well, sounds like you had a fabulous time on your little
Yeah, it was
adventure.
nice. Yeah, it
We'll
was
see what
nice.
happens with if the people who are coming up to the Firewood Frenzy with their adventure. And yeah, that was I guess that's about it, huh?
Uh-huh. What you need to do is get you a card table and a chair and a canopy, and sit out there and charge people when they pull in to park.
Appearance fee.
Yeah.
For you appearing here today, you will be charged a fee.
Yeah. A looking fee. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm gonna call, like, we're gonna charge admission at the expo. I'm gonna call it a looking fee. This is brilliant.
Yes.
I need to get me a tie and a cubicle. I can just run the wheels off of these companies now.
Right. Because if you think about it, the percentage of people that would probably just pay it like you did would be
Yeah.
higher than the people who were the guy behind you who wouldn't pay it. So you probably would come out. You'd come out ahead.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But people might also say inside of their own brain what I was saying to that counter lady was, "You will never see me again." You will never see me again, and I'm going to tell everyone I know not to come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
I
do
did.
run that
I did too.
risk.
Yeah.
You roll the dice.
Yeah. Well, I'm a consumer, and I will behave like one.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, Dan, why don't you take good notes of the event up there in Wisconsin, and maybe let's discuss about it our next episode of the Woodhounds podcast.
All right, but before we do that, you got to say the words.
I am prepared to say the words, but it will cost you $6 for a strike up the band fee. Let's strike up the band, Dan.
Cha-ching! All right. Yes, we will. I'll have a recap of the frenzy right here on the Woodhounds podcast, the number one firewood podcast in the world.
Yeah. And if you're out there traveling, travel safe, and maybe we will see you at the
Firewood Frenzy.
And you might have to pay a fee to
Shake my hand.
yeah. Yeah. And while you're shaking Dan's hand, you can have
A great day.